Moving on to agenda item number 2, briefing on the Channels project. Before we start this, just want to make a quick comment. This is a briefing for the commission here. There will be a public hearing later, but Mr. Rich Briere is going to come and open up, and I'll just turn it right over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Earlier this year, this commission passed a resolution recognizing the Arkansas River Corridor Master Plan as an element of the comprehensive plan. That resolution was subsequently approved unanimously by the Tulsa City Council and by the Board of County Commissioners. That plan was designed to focus attention on the Arkansas River Corridor, to stimulate thought, private investment, to create opportunities along the corridor. That plan actually stretched from Keystone Dam to the Wagner County line, some 42 miles of riverfront. Subsequent to that, the Tulsa Stakeholders Incorporated, what's known as TSI, has developed an ambitious plan that has been called the Channels. The purpose today is to provide a briefing for the Commission regarding the proposed Channels project. It is not a public hearing. There is the potential that in the weeks and months ahead that you will be asked to either amend the comprehensive plan to specifically recognize the channels or to determine that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So this is simply background for you as those discussions may unfold in the weeks and months ahead. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Chris Lambert with Tulsa Stakeholders Incorporated, who will make the presentation. Tom Cooper is also available after that presentation for questions from the Commission. As you've indicated, Mr. Chairman, this is not a scheduled public hearing. Prior to any action by the Commission, there would be a formal public hearing that would be
the fire alarm. Okay, the fire alarm has gone back to silent, so we're going to reconvene the meeting here. Mr. Briere, back to you.
Chairman, that really concluded my remarks. I'd like to introduce Chris Lambert with TSI for the presentation, unless you have questions of me.
All right, not right now. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Briere?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris?
Good afternoon. Did we get your attention?
Yes. Great intro.
I promise we had nothing to do with that. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of the board this afternoon to share with you a vision for Tulsa and waterfront development within our community. It's a vision that allows Tulsans an opportunity to benefit from the city's greatest natural resource and from all the resulting economic, social, and cultural things that would follow. So thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedules and allowing us to come here for this briefing this afternoon. I'd like to start by looking briefly at our past and see what it tells us about our possible future here in the Tulsa community. The discovery of oil and gas in Oklahoma was at a time when automobile and air transportation were just taking off. It resulted in accumulation of considerable wealth for our state. However, it's important to remember that Tulsa did not become the community that it is today just because of the natural resources that were found here. It was the visionary leadership and strong infrastructure investments in the beginning by Tulsa's early leaders that set us apart from other oil field towns, ultimately making Tulsa the oil capital of the world. Among the many examples of this visionary leadership and early infrastructure investment is the Savannah water system. In 1924, a group of private citizens led the development of the Savannah water system. The project was breathtaking in scope and audacious in execution. The project was designed to bring 4 times the water capacity that was required by Tulsa at the time. It was financed by the largest U.S. per capita bond issue in U.S. history. The project created the largest lake in the state of Oklahoma and the longest freshwater pipeline in the United States. President Calvin Coolidge started the Savannah water system by pressing a telegraph key from the White House. It was a daring, visionary gamble. Another example of visionary leadership and early infrastructure investment in Tulsa is what we know today as the Tulsa International Airport. In 1928, not long after the Wright brothers took off from Kitty Hawk, Tulsa citizens were back at work. They led the development of the Tulsa Airport. The initial private funding for the Tulsa Airport was led by the signing of the famous Stud Horse Note. Within a few years, the Tulsa International Airport was the international leader in paying passenger traffic. Once again, Tulsa had anchored its place on the world stage. Tulsa was the jewel of the heartland, built on strong infrastructure and visionary leadership. These early investments allowed Tulsa to grow for several decades. But since that time, there have been few projects undertaken on the visionary scale of those early leaders. And because of that, our city has stagnated. A striking example of this is the decline in Tulsa's core population over the past 30 years. We know that we do the suburbs well, and we're proud of that. But what's missing is the strong urban core that anchors all surrounding areas. Studies show that the better the core does, the better the suburbs do. And unfortunately, the converse is true too. If this decline in population continues, there will no longer be a sustainable tax base to support our basic city services such as the streets, paying our police officers, and improving our school systems. And even with the passage of Vision 2025, it's widely recognized that it'll take more to resurrect the core of Tulsa, especially as it relates to the Arkansas River. The role of the Arkansas River in Tulsa's history is central to our region. Transportation, trade, and human health were all key elements for the first settlements that came to Tulsa. Today, with approximately 42 miles of riverfront throughout the Tulsa County, the river remains an abundant resource for our entire community. The call for riverfront development in Tulsa is not new, and the answer has always been a bold, focused vision. One that extends our city to the water, one that celebrates our natural assets and builds upon our heritage and catalyzes the entire region. To help us transform our waterfront, we tasked some of the brightest minds in the world, working across a variety of disciplines. And just because of our limited time here today, I'm going to touch briefly on just a few of them. Bing Tom Architects is a world-renowned architect and urban design firm. Bing and his team are experts at rejuvenating cities, particularly when situated around waterfronts. He's worked on cities large and small, such as Vancouver, Shanghai, and Fort Worth. Local firm Benham Engineering studied the hydrological and environmental feasibility of the project, recognizing that the safety and feasibility of the project was paramount. So we then hired CDM of Fort Worth to perform a comprehensive engineering peer review, making sure that no stone was left unturned regarding the environmental and hydraulic aspects of the project. We also engaged Arup, an international engineering firm, to assist in the design of the project, to take advantage of proven technologies available to us regarding energy, sustainability, and overall human comfort. Their resume includes the Sydney Opera House, the Channel, and the 2012 London Olympics. Dallas-based Staubach Group is a renowned project management company that consistently brings massive projects in on time and on budget. They managed the design process of the project and prepared a detailed cost analysis. And as you can see, a number of other consultants were involved, from regulatory and permitting consultants to real estate, urban forestry, and art. The result is a bold project that showcases the vibrancy of our community by leveraging our greatest natural asset, the Arkansas River. I'd like to introduce you all to the channels. Let's imagine a 40-acre island situated near downtown between 11th and 23rd Street, with beautiful public parks lining the shores, including magnificent fountains and public art displays. An open-air marketplace that includes uniquely Tulsa shops, restaurants, and artisans, all shaded by an iconic canopy. and a mix of residential options that can accommodate 3,000 people from all walks of life, creating one of the most vibrant neighborhoods in the country. Imagine an 18-foot dam under the 23rd Street Bridge, creating a 12-mile public lake navigable to Sand Springs. A ferry boat can get you there. An urban lake that creates a 24-mile economic corridor that will rejuvenate the entire Tulsa region, with water taxis connecting the east to the west and the north to the south. A lake for sailboats, rowers, and the marinas that would house them. A lake for all Tulsans in the heart of Tulsa. Imagine a spectacular public gathering place on the river, an almost 5-acre Tulsa Green on the east bank from 15th Street to Denver, a place where Tulsa's many festivals can take center stage, a place where you can swim and play in the public beach and pool, a place where people are able to enjoy the river up close, a place where locals and visitors can mingle and experience the vibrancy of our community. Imagine watching your kids or grandchildren in the grand fountains and the water playgrounds that cool the channels in the summer and then turn into ice skating rinks in the winter. Imagine miles of new public walkways at the water's edge, lined with beautiful gardens and landscaping beckoning to be enjoyed. Imagine a central marketplace on the island, a place where all of the senses can come alive, with wonderful aromas from bakeries and other fresh food vendors, the sounds of live music and lively conversation, the taste of great food from unique restaurants, all while watching the promenade of people as they go by. Imagine unique, wonderful public art displays in the river and throughout the channels. This is a place where locals and visitors gather to live, learn, work, and play. A place that is always alive. A place with people. A place to eat and drink, to read, write, paint, draw, or just relax for one moment on a beautiful Tulsa day. The channels will also demonstrate principles of sustainability to the world. For example, the project includes wetlands to clean the river water, rainwater harvesting, and stormwater remediation. As a result, the channels will become a leader in the development, integration, use, and storage of renewable energy. Hydro, solar, and wind power, combined with strategic shading and other techniques, will help make the channels the leader in the new energy revolution. The project will create more energy than it consumes. And because of these sustainable principles, the project won't be a financial burden to the city or the county. Instead, the channels will generate excess dollars that then go back into the public sector. Fixing streets and having more police takes a tax base to pay for it all. A tax base is created by having people living and working in Tulsa. So we have to retain and attract people to the core of our city, and the channels will do that, as it's done in other waterfront developments across the country. The construction of the channels alone will create thousands of new jobs, spurring investment across the entire region, catalyzing the revitalization of our entire community. This economic revitalization is key to developing the jobs and the businesses that follow talented workers. The time has come for all of our communities to come together and work on a project with the immense benefit for our entire region and state. As our history has taught us, instead of begging for jobs to come to us, it's time for Tulsans to invest in ourselves. If we make Tulsa a better place to live for ourselves, the jobs, the businesses, and the people will come. The bold vision that we've outlined here will require a public investment. The public portion is $600 million. Every penny of which goes to finance public usage spaces. In addition, Tulsa Stakeholders has committed to raising $100 million from the private sector, and $88 million would be generated from a bond for the renewable energy. Through the sale of that energy, you can create from the hydro dam and other renewable energies, that $88 million bond will be financed for a total package price of $788 million. The specifics of the funding package are left up for discussion. It's not for us to say what they are. But it is our belief that the stage is set for Tulsa and the channels to make the channels a reality in a public trust, much like those that put Tulsa on the map in the beginning. I really want to thank you for your time this afternoon to take a look at this brief overview of the project. There's obviously a lot more underneath the covers and then go into a lot of depth, so we'd like to open it up to questions from the board, and I'm going to invite Tom Cooper up here to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. Any questions for her? I've only got one question. You might be able to answer it. Just where it's showing that there, how wide is the river? The same width now as it will be then, or is the river going to be wider?
That's a good question. I want to answer that. First of all, let me thank this Tulsa Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. I was on the Board of Adjustment for 6 years, and I want to take the opportunity to thank you all for your service. Many of you are volunteers. The rest of you, I think, are public servants. And I don't think in my 6 years anybody ever thanked us for our service or ever offered us a restroom break in the middle of the hearing. So I'd like to take a minute to offer you a restroom break. If you need to take one, I'll pause for a minute. Maybe get a glass of water. I don't think they serve that up here any. They never have. So okay, no breaks. Okay, now let me answer your question. The flooding concern. Just to take a quick back up, and then I'll jump into this. When six of us got together and we said, look, we'd like to change the trajectory of this city, this whole community, the county, everything. How are we going to do that? What should we focus on? What do we think the crucial issues are? And we thought the crucial issues were the ability to attract and retain talent, the jobs that follow, the sense and strength of the community, and the ability to create a sustainable, abundant tax base. So those were the goals. Then we said, well, those are pretty big goals. Not sure we have the expertise to answer those by ourselves. Let's go out and hire the best people in the world that we can find. Once it became a river project and there was coalescence that the place that we could make the biggest difference for this community was the river, the place where we could create a project that could demonstrate a leapfrogging notion instead of a catch-up notion for our community was the river. Then we said, wow, the river is something that we really need to take care of. We ought to make sure that we don't screw it up and increase or cause any flooding risks. So now I'm going to try to get to your question. So we hired Benham Engineering as well as CDM out of Fort Worth to peer review Benham because we were that concerned about the issue. So the simple answer to your question is that we are going to maintain a net zero change to the flood carrying capacity of the river. The two easy ways, conceptual ways to think about that are that the channel width, the net channel width, the ability for that channel to carry water will remain the same or slightly bigger than it is today. And we have a bascule gate dam, which is a dam that meters out the flow of the water and can actually lay down and get out of the way of the flood, any flood waters, so that the channel's flood carrying capacity remains the same. So the short answer is it's a net zero change to the flood carrying capacity of the river, and that's the way it's been designed.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a few questions. Historic preservation is my issue, and one of the things that just jumped out in my mind when I heard that you're going to be raising the level 18 feet. Is that correct? The river will be raised about 18 feet. I think that's what I read in the paper.
Over the current zinc dam water level, that's approximately correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will that affect the Avery Memorial Bridge?
The which memorial bridge?
The Avery Memorial Bridge?
It should not, no.
It's okay.
No, it's well below that, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious also, the 3,000, 3,000, that's 3,000 residents?
Right.
Is that, how did you come up with that number? It seems kind of like a small piece of land for that many people.
That's a great question. What we have programmed, let me take a quick step backwards. The question that we asked ourselves from the very beginning is, okay, we want a vision that will leapfrog other cities, that will make the biggest difference. How far do we need to carry that vision to make it presentable, to make sure that it's achievable? And so we had to come up with some programming that would help achieve the goals from a use mix standpoint, a building use standpoint. That helped us figure out how much energy that would be consumed, and that drove the renewable energies and this whole sustainable funding mechanism that we're using the energy to do. So what we have programmed is about 1.8 million square feet of residential. How you chop it as far as the numbers of units or how many people will actually live per unit, that's really unknowable at this point. But if you use kind of some rule of thumb numbers that the planners used, it's about 3,000 people. So it's but the program is for 1.8 million square feet, and the 3,000 people is just a way to kind of communicate roughly how many people might be housed in an area of that square footage.
Well,
but you might have one person living in 5,000 square feet, and you might have 6 people living in 2,500 square feet. And so it's just a way to try to communicate roughly how many people might be able to live there.
And will you be able to accommodate parking for that many people?
Yeah, what we've programmed is, and this came up in our some of our other hearings before some other committees, is that what we've programmed is suburban parking codes. So the code parking is what's programmed. We've actually had some comments that maybe the parking should be less. And so again, the point is to budget and program for kind of the difficult scenario, the most expansive scenario, and then if the community wants to pare that back under different zoning or for some other reason, then that's obviously a discussion we can have in the community. But it's code parking to answer your question.
Okay. I just one other question.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sure that this has been looked at, but I just from a safety point and looking at this, it seems that there's 2 roads and they don't look too large. I don't know if they're 1 lane or 2 lane or what, but I just am thinking, and if there were ever an issue where people had to get off the island very quickly, I mean, is that something that you looked at in terms of safety concerns?
It is, yes, and that's a great question. It was one, again, that was covered in our hearings. The roads going to the island, those are 4-lane bridges. There's 2 bridges. There's room for, in addition to those 4 lanes for cars, there's room for pedestrian and bicycling to keep them segregated from the cars, because we all know bicycles and walkers don't like to be near cars. And then connecting islands, we've got 2 2-lane bridges in between. So what we did was we had our planners and their transportation folks look at the peak usage on and off the island using those bridges, and we have an excess of capacity during peak periods. So as far as safety, that the channels would be one of the highest points in the area as it relates to the banks. So it actually, we would envision it potentially being a place that people would go to in a difficult situation as opposed to flee from. So it's going to be quite substantial as far as the construction.
Thank you.
Mr. Hard?
Tom, can you give us an idea generally about what you foresee as the timing? There's been some discussion in the paper about bringing this to a vote next spring, possibly, but can you give us an idea of how you see the timing and possibly how our commission might be involved in what you see as the timing of moving this plan forward?
That's a good question on the timing as it relates to this commission. I don't remember I might let Mr. Reynolds speak to that specific zoning question. So I'll ask Lou. I guess the first thing is we requested of the county commission that we be permitted to go through an INCOG plan review process. There were a lot of questions about the technical issues, and we felt like we wanted to get out the information that we had, particularly to people who could possibly add and make the project better. So we wanted to elaborate further, and so we've been going through that. And that process is the formal hearings have ended. We're in the process of responding in writing to a significant number of questions. The timing of whether or not it would go to the people is up to, at this point it would be up to the county commission. We're envisioning a countywide funding package that would help pay for this, but that's ultimately up to the county commission. From whatever the go date is, just kind of going along here, assuming that the community wants to do this, we would envision a roughly 2-year permitting process, several permits that we'd have to get to do this, and we've seen it. Fort Worth just did a much more complicated river plan than this in 18 months as far as getting it permitted. If you don't take some of the issues seriously up front, you don't submit your stuff properly, it can take longer. The actual construction of the islands and the infrastructure and the public spaces and the park, the canopy and the dam, our consultants have told us 2 years. I mean, it's not a terribly complicated construction process from a duration standpoint. So maybe as soon as 4 or 5 years for completion and being ready for development for builders, and then does that touch on your time frame? And then I'd ask Mr. Reynolds just to make a couple comments as to the status quo zoning and issues that we have and some possible opportunities, just very briefly.
Mr. Chairman, Lou Reynolds. What I wanted to clarify is that the river presently is zoned AG. The islands can be constructed on the river under the present zoning. The improvements that you see on there would come later. Exactly how the islands would need to be zoned in order to have them would be left up to a future date when we know more details. We have present zoning designations that would allow, tall buildings. We've got RM3, OMH, OH, CH, and maybe the possibility of some new type of zoning district. So there are ways to accommodate that at a later time. So it's everything that you see there.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Reynolds, who owns the river?
Who owns the river is most of the land that you see here is owned by the city of Tulsa.
Well, on that very question, there's been comments and.
Well, the simple point is that the party that owns the bank owns to the center of the river.
Okay.
And that's how that's decided. The legal notion is the Arkansas River has been determined by the United States Supreme Court to be a non-navigable stream. If it's a non-navigable stream along here, it's non-navigable according to the United States Supreme Court all the way down to the confluence with the Grand River. And so that the owner of the bank owns to what's called the riparian rights. They own to the center of the stream. And most of the land that we've looked at along here and examined, the title to the banks held by the city of Tulsa.
Right. Any other questions? Ms. Bales.
And this is for either Mr. Cooper or Mr. Reynolds. The article that was in this morning's paper, the plan would cut the West Bank. Would you consider what has been reported to be accurate?
I was in meetings all morning today. I have not read this morning's article, so I can't really comment on the accuracy. What I will say is that we're going to maintain the width of the floodway, maintain the flood carrying capacity. There will be it'll be an iterative process to figure out how much area on the West Bank would need to be taken. But yeah, there will be, that width has got to stay the same in order to maintain the flood carrying capacity of the river.
Okay, and just to clarify, what I read this morning was that the Channels Project would take a portion of the Arkansas River's West Bank, resulting in the relocation of the River West Festival Parks Amphitheater and the acquisition of private land, the group Tulsa's Young Professionals learned Tuesday. And I suspect my question then is, would we be looking at a potential land acquisition of the privately owned developments, as well as including perhaps even the trails, concrete plant, apartments, etc.?
We'll definitely need to acquire property to achieve this plan. And the river parks, I don't remember what it said exactly. I mean, you told me what it said, but I don't remember what you said. But there should be plenty of land over there to retain river parks if that's where the river parks decides to stay focused. We also think we're creating really an incredible venue for festivals, a lot more than just a few times a year. So the total acreage available to have festivals is going to be greatly expanded. But we look forward to working with the river parks on specific festivals to figure out how to best orient them in this exciting venue. And again, we're eager to improve and expand the river parks as the river parks wants to expand their venues as well. So should have plenty of acreage for that.
Well, and Mr. Bernard, if you'll indulge me one more moment, we were privileged to have Bing Tom present to the AIA membership yesterday, and architects are well regarded as being both complimentary and hypercritical of their colleagues and projects. And this is one where, as I believe PJ reported, Mr. Tom says that the Channels is a microcosm of an idea, and you can implement it, grasp it for Tulsa, you will be the world. And to be quite candid, I went into the presentation not expecting to like it, not expecting to see Mr. Tom's point of view, but fortunately for us, he presented a variety of projects that he has been associated with. And the way they have been both designed, developed, and implemented left me, quite honestly, being enthusiastic about the project. anxious to learn more. We have questions that were taken from our audience that were not answered, and I would expect that they will be among those that will be answered, and certainly they will be out in the public realm as well, because clearly this is an idea, but it is an enthusiastic idea, and it is being approached in terms of bold vision, and for that I'm truly supportive of what we hope will be Tulsa's future.
Well, thank you for that insight. It is a bold vision. Any other comments, Mr. Cooper?
Thank you. Again, I just want to thank you for your service and your time. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming, and you also, Ms. Lambert. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Oh, yeah, there's a model somewhere there was, we got an email from Ms. Bells somewhere down on Peoria. I wanted to go by and see it, but didn't get a chance.
The address, I believe, is right at the 3500 block of Peoria on the west side. The businesses of S.R. Hughes have graciously allowed us to display the model in a place that the public can easily see it and walk in a very public place, a very visible place. And today I wasn't able to attend it, but we had an unveiling of that model. And so, yeah, welcome to have you all come check it out and add to it and comment and try to help us make it better. And I think that's really where we are right now, is how can we work together to make this an even better project than it is today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're going to move forward on to